Welcome, welcome. Feel free to come on in and grab a seat if there's one available, and if there isn't, let us know and we'll do whatever we can to accommodate you. For those of you that don't know me, I'm Susan Champion, and I'm co-chair, along with Bill Joyce, of Options Recovery Services Board of Directors. I've been with Options on the board since around 2012, and I cannot tell you what a bittersweet, joyous event this is for me, having known Tom for the years that I have, and seeing so much of his vision, his compassion, his commitment sort of come to fruition with this beautiful sanctuary, this beautiful place for people to recover from substance use disorder and return to their lives. This is just such a wonderful way to honor him and the amazing work that he has done. I will never forget the first time I met Tom Gorham. I was at a board meeting, and in walks late this guy who looked very, very professional and very on top of things, and I thought, oh my goodness, this must be another board member. And it was only during the meeting that I realized that no, he was actually on leadership staff of Options. And by the way, he's also married to the founding director. Oh, and then later it turned out that I discovered that he was actually one of Options' first clients, and that he had made it his mission, his goal, to give back in the way that he had been given to through all of his hard work, his commitment, and his passion for this cause. I grew to learn that Tom was instrumental in expanding the housing available to those in recovery, understanding that it's impossible to truly recover if you don't have a safe place to put your head at night, if you don't have people around you in a community that cares about you nearby and close at hand. I grew to have the most intense admiration for Tom's sort of walk soft, carry a big stick attitude. I've seen him really walk into meetings and stick to his guns and say, this is what the clients at Options need to be safe. This is what they need to help them in their recovery, and I'm not gonna back down just because there's a silly thing like a budget in the way. Tom has been incredible, an incredible advocate for everybody in the community that suffers from substance use disorder, people that suffer from being unhoused and not having a community of support. And then more recently, Tom has gone to incredible strides to develop the Offender Mentor Certification Program, which goes into prisons and allows inmates that have shown themselves to be up for the task, gives them the opportunity to become peer mentors in substance use disorder counseling, and then to become certified in that, and so that when they graduate from the program and are actually released, they can go into their communities and give back as well with a paying job and a way to really continue to thrive and be productive post incarceration. I can't recall the exact date, but I do remember when Davida Cody, the founder, decided she was ready to retire, and us thinking, what are we gonna do? How are we gonna find a new executive director? And really twisting Tom's arm. He was like, I'm not gonna do this for very long. I'm just gonna give you some time to get someone else to come in. And sure enough, it was probably 5 or 6 years later that he actually was able to retire. And one of his last gifts to us as a board was to give us his successor. So Tom has been not only an incredible mentor, an incredible inspiration, and an incredible human being that I'm grateful to have in my life, and an incredible friend. He's also been one of the best hiking buddies you can have during Sober September or Recovery Month. He's been one of the best A's fans I can ever recall, and has honestly been an incredible dear friend and a very cherished part of my life. So with that, I'm going to turn things over to his successor, Justin Phillips, who has a little bit more to say about Tom. Thank you all so much for coming.
Hi, everybody. Thank you for being here tonight. It's such a beautiful evening out here on the patio. So thank you, everyone, and welcome. My name is Justin Phillips. I am the current executive director for Options Recovery Services, and Very grateful to be Tom's successor and taking this agency by the helm after so many great people came before me. I want to take a moment and just acknowledge our founder, Davida Cody, and all of the efforts that she put in to make this a possibility for all of us. And it's worth mentioning at every event. So I want to make sure to do that, especially today. So I'm going to be your kind of unofficial master of ceremonies. So you're going to see me a few times, and then I'm going to give my section of the presentation today and the dedication. But today is really about celebrating the career of Mr. Thomas P. Gorham and his contribution to not only options, but the thousands and thousands of lives that have been impacted by his efforts, by his initiative, by his advocacy. And I think all of us in this room can relate to Tom's spirit and acknowledge how critical that has been in changing the lives of so many. So with that, I want to open up the ceremony and take a moment and acknowledge a few special guests and have a few people say some words up at the podium. And then I'll come back and kind of wrap things up, and then we'll hand it over to Tom and have him say a few words as well. So with that, I would like to invite up Mayor Tom Bates to say a few words.
So thank you. Can you hear me okay? Yeah, okay. So this is such a wonderful thing to have happen for Tom. You know, he had a wonderful partner, just like I have a wonderful partner in Davida. And when I first met Tom, I met Tom actually through Davida. Davida was a practicing physician, and Loni and I were going to El Salvador and Nicaragua. And we were told we had to go see Davida because she could get us some of the vaccinations we needed to be able to go in. So we met Davida and then our friendship grew over the years. And we're so happy to have had options in Berkeley. You know, options mean so much to our community. And when it first got started, you know, the question was, should it be in the Veterans Building? And then should it be free? Should we charge them something? And I was very fortunate to be the mayor for 14 years. And during that time, I attended maybe 10 or 15 different graduations. And it's so inspiring to see these people turn their lives around and be able to become productive, positive citizens. And Options was a place. You know, when I first was elected, there used to be things called harmless thing where you could give people drugs and they could stay, conceivably out of trouble. And Tom and said to me, no way. You have to stop, and you have to have the discipline to be able to maintain that and remain sober and maintain that kind of lifestyle. We embraced that as a philosophy, and it's turned out to be fabulous. And Options has just grown and flowered and become such a magnificent program. One last little story, and then I'd like Loni to say a word. We went to see Tom and Davida, and I said, how the heck are you able to get all these houses all over the place? I think they had like 16 or 17. And Tom said, well, it's easy. We just mortgage our house, and we mortgage everything else. And so it turns out he's going to go into real estate, I think, when it gets done. Not really. So thank you so much, and this is a wonderful tribute for Tom to have this dedicated in his honor.
Okay. Yes, we were both so lucky because we got to work with Tom and Davida. People who had a dream were not going to give it up, and shows what persistence and imagination and brilliance can do. So Tom was fortunate. He got to help Options in Berkeley expand its services. I was extremely fortunate to be in the state legislature and chair the committees related to the budget and policy about justice reform. And when I saw the Offender Mentor Program, the graduation at San Quentin, the very first one, I was blown away because it's such a win-win. We know 80% of the people, wardens will tell you, in our state prisons have drug or alcohol abuse problems. There were about 134,000 people in prison at that time, and they had 2,000 slots for treatment. Well, the only way you could reach out and touch people would be through a program like this, which has the added advantage of giving people life work. And one of my thrilling moments was a couple of years after that first graduation, somebody came up to me at a meeting, a really nice, good-looking guy, and said, "Hey, remember me? I was in that options graduation. Now I'm a drug and alcohol abuse counselor with, one of our clinics." So we know it works. It's brilliant. And in this life, I think most of us have found things don't always work, even with our best intention. It's so wonderful to have an organization that works, and not only having this beautiful space, because it is really true, living with beauty is very healing. And congratulations, Tom. Congratulations, Options. And we're looking forward to whatever the future brings, because we know it'll be good.
Thank you so much. In these little intermissions, we have time for traffic to move back and forth from this. This works out great. So with that, I want to thank City Council Member Loren Taylor for being here today. And this beautiful site is in his district currently. And I'd like to invite him up to the stage and say a few words. So thank you.
Good afternoon, everybody. It is great to be here. As mentioned, my name is Loren Taylor. I am the city council member representing this district here in Oakland, and I'm extremely excited about this building, the services, the dedication that we are here to do. I did not have the privilege of getting to know Tom Gorham, but clearly his impact that he has had, the legacy, is something that not only is felt today through Options and its impact across the East Bay, but it's something that I'm excited will continue to live on and be amplified, especially right here in the heart of District 6, a district where we don't have a single retail bank for 64,000 residents, where we don't have a major chain grocery store. When we talk about the impacts of institutional racism, redlining, disinvestment, and the impact that that has on communities, leading to the toxic stress and trauma that often leads people towards substance abuse, drugs, alcohol. This is where we should be planting these types of services, what Options is providing. When we talk about options in that name, that means we are giving people a chance to recover, a chance to heal, to move beyond the circumstances that they have found themselves in, almost always not of their own, but because of the circumstances that they have been born into or fell upon. And so I am grateful to be here. Thank you, Justin, for your leadership. Thank you to all who are here. I know that while we are dedicating this to Tom and his impact, a program like Options does not exist without the support of a broad base of community partners, supporters, the board members, the staff, all of those who are continuing the legacy, the impact that was initially envisioned, and making sure that it goes even further beyond that. So with that, I'm grateful to be here. thank you for your service, your commitment, and look forward to continuing to roll up sleeves as we serve our city, our community, our residents, so that they can live to their fullest potential. Thank you, and again, look forward to the continued partnership.
Thank you, Councilmember Loren Taylor. We really appreciate your attendance today and saying a few kind words. I have a few honorable mentions that I want to make note of and make sure to mention today. No speaking necessarily, but just recognizing some folks that are in attendance. First, I want to recognize Audrey Momo's here representing Senator Skinner's office. You want to stand up real quick and give her a round of applause? Where is she? There she is. Oh, she's in the back. I also want to acknowledge Pamela Farren. Is she here today? Oh, hi, Pam. Yes, welcome. Thank you. Thanks for being here. Raul Perez, is he here? Is he hiding somewhere? Where is he at? Stand up, Raul. So Raul is responsible for for all of the renovation that you see in this great site today. He is the contractor responsible for all the beauty that you see. So round of applause for Raul. Thank you. I also want to thank Options Co-Chair Bill Joyce, who has played a critical role in orchestrating this and making a lot happen, and his continued contribution to Options Recovery Services. Stand up and be recognized, Bill. And then all the board members, the Options board members that are in attendance today in support of our services and their continued dedicated effort to our mission and continued efforts to serve the community so greatly. So thank you, Options Board. Lastly, I want to thank all the staff that are in attendance. I want to thank Pam, our housing director, Porter. Say hi, Pam. Wave to. Yeah, so Pam plays a critical role in housing for many folks. Porter Sexton, our development director, who orchestrated this event today. Porter, come on out here and say hello. There you go. And also one of our founding board members, Susan Bookman-Kerber, who's played a critical role in today's ceremony as well. And all of the Options staff and leadership that are here today, thank you for being here and celebrating this event and the dedication. So thank you. So I have the privilege of being able to talk a little bit about what we're going to be using this building for and why it was so important to dedicate it to Tom Gorham. First, you know, Tom lived by this theme of meeting the need first, of doing first and figuring out later. And one of the things that that led to was the purchase of this property. And initially, when I came on board, we didn't really know what we were going to do with this property or how it was going to be designated or what the use was be, but Tom knew that it would develop into something. And so he worked with the board and developed a plan to renovate this former convent into the building that it is today, which is right around 25 bedrooms, 2 stories, and is just miraculous thanks to the hard work of Raul Perez and his team. But ultimately, it was a space that we were trying to determine what to do with it. You know, we now have that purpose. Almost right around 10 years ago, and this was referenced a couple times when Mayor Bates and Senator Hancock were up here, that, you know, something very special started in San Quentin around 10 years ago. And that was that Tom and his wife, Davida, decided to go in and offer some very special services to folks inside San Quentin. And as a result, that developed into a model that is now nationally recognized, where over the last 10 years, there have been hundreds and hundreds of people who have gone through what is now known as the Offender Mentor Certification Program and are now getting out of prison in large numbers, going back into their community and serving their community. That is a remarkable, remarkable legacy and ultimately contribution to the world in general. I think that one of the things that we found is that the folks that are becoming certified substance use counselors inside the prisons as part of this Offender Mentor Certification Program is they're doing so much good inside the institutions that the institutions are deciding that that's not the best place for them. That actually the best place for them is to return to their communities. To return to their communities and provide services to people who also need it. And so what's happened is a lot of folks who never planned on getting out, or it would be a long time before they did, earned their freedom. They earned their right to come into the community and serve the community the way that they were meant to serve. But what we found is that a lot of the places where these folks land once they get out is not conducive to the growth that they've demonstrated while inside the institution itself. That the models in which transitional living and reentry services tend to be geared around are not focused on the type of individual that comes out of an OMCP program, or many of the folks that they serve while they're incarcerated. And so this center is designated as the Tom Gorham Center that is focused exclusively on helping those who are long-term offenders continue their reentry, reassimilation, and recovery in a safe, clean and sober environment that is literally, and you'll see those of you that are going to continue with the tour, that this is like the Ritz-Carlton of people coming out of prison into a safe environment. This is it. This is the standard. And what we do is we set a new standard for what that looks like. We set a new standard that people deserve dignity, respect, and they deserve to be honored for the work that they continue to do and want to do in their communities. In addition to housing for these folks, services will include intensive case management, transportation, and peer mentoring to effectively and successfully address the many challenges our formerly incarcerated population face. OMCP, the Offender Mentor Certification Program, is something very special. It is something that is unlike any other, and the quality, what really comes out of this program is it helps bring the gifts that people come into this world with back out of them when they're stuck in a system that's forced so many negative stereotypes on them. So it's just such an honor to be able to dedicate such a site to Tom, because Tom was instrumental and continues to be instrumental in OMCP and its wide success. I think when off the cuff conversation after Tom's retirement, we learned that Alaska, Colorado, New Mexico, there's a handful of other states throughout the country that are looking to us to figure out how to replicate what we're doing here in California. And that all started with an idea, with something that Tom and Davida had early on. And so there's thousands that get to benefit from that today. And the thousands of people that will come through the Tom Gorham Center will continue to benefit from that, long after all of us are gone. So with that, I want to just take a moment and celebrate Tom, recognize this space for what it is today, is a safe, secure, and clean and sober environment where people can come out of incarceration and thrive. They can thrive in this environment. That we're not just sticking them anywhere and hoping that they make it. We're going to take care of them, and we're going to make sure that they get the support that they need. And that's all in your name today. So. So now I get to talk about my experience with Tom. So I had the pleasure of meeting Tom over a decade ago when I was working in another agency and he was running clinical services for Options. And we were tasked with dealing with some of the most challenging folks in Alameda County, okay, that nothing was working. And there was this list, and this list were folks that were really struggling to make it in treatment. And I happened to be running and working at the detox here in Alameda County, and Tom was running clinical services here at Options, and we came together and were tasked with trying to help these folks that were really resistant to getting the help. And it was such a great experience. I had, he and I would work hand in hand. We'd talk all day, and then he'd call me at the middle of the night and say, hey, I need this, or can you do this, or can we meet with this guy tomorrow, can we figure this out? We just formed such a great friendship that lasted and continues to last today. But over the years, I've had the chance to see just what a fierce advocate and just he's just such a champion of substance use disorder services, of employment for formerly incarcerated folks, for livable wages and actual competitive wages for people who are substance use disorder counselors, and really putting substance use at the same on the same level as mental health and medical and everything else that it deserves. So I got to watch him champion this. Locally, we went and spoke to the Board of Supervisors together in support of many things and in opposition of many things over the years. And we just formed a really great friendship. And I'm so grateful for that friendship. So there's a few things that I got to see Tom do. And as a mentor, as somebody who was growing and developing in different leadership roles in the field, I had the advantage of learning from Tom and seeing the value that he brings to the field and to the organization. And so in addition to that, what many of you might not know is that Tom has served as part of NADAC for many, many years. NADAC is a national certifying organization that certifies addiction counselors and is seen as the standard for substance use disorder counselors who are getting certified in the field. And as now a regional or outgoing or soon to be outgoing, I don't know how soon that will be, we'll see about that, but he soon to be outgoing regional vice president, he represents a good portion of the country's workforce in making decisions around how substance use disorder counselors are treated and the level of education and rigor that they go through in order to provide excessive or effective services. As Options CEO and Executive Director, I got to see over time Options blossom from a small grassroots organization to a multi-facility, multi-county, highly effective treatment organization. And so I got to see this all kind of unfold over years of knowing Tom. We'd run into each other at meetings, and we'd kind of joke and laugh and have fun with each other. And he's just become such a great friend and such a great mentor to me. I feel very blessed to be able to succeed him and honor him in this way, especially because he and Davida had made made such an impact. Such an impact on the world, and to be able to follow behind those footsteps is just such an honor. And it's just something I still feel like a little kid that kind of won the lottery, right? So, as a friend and a mentor to many, Tom provide leadership, guidance, advocacy. Once these folks that were being trained inside the prison system started getting out, Tom always made sure that they had a safe place to land no matter what. He would spend time with them and help them get connected. He would assign staff to work with them. He would hire them and continue to hire them. So now, if we look at the entire staff of options, a very large percentage of our existing staff are OMCP graduates. What an honor. What an amazing fruit of the labor that went into that program. So over those 10 years of people being released, Tom's been a friend and mentor to many. At the end of the day, in his retirement and in this dedication, Tom will be memorialized as the person who's responsible for changing the lives of so many. That his name will be attached to this building forever, as we are owners of this property and don't plan on selling it anytime soon. But as a human being, Tom made the world a better place. He made the world a better place. And in reflection, that's all we could ever hope for in our career, in our life, is did my life make a difference in the life of others? His did. And today we recognize that. Today we celebrate that. And today we named this building the Tom Gorham Center. And with that, I would like to introduce the man of the hour, Mr. Thomas P. Gorham.
Thank you, everybody. Boy, am I feeling a lot of love here today. And it's astounding because I got a bunch of my heroes in the audience here under the tree of life. And I'll tell you, when Raul and he's always my first call after Faith Fuller helps me get the money together to buy something. And we talked 2 o'clock in the morning many nights about the potential, that in this building that I want to shout out the Catholic Diocese as one of the partners that we have had over the years that have really made it possible for us to purchase things like this. And I'll just share a funny story that the board of options, stand up please, and we've been friends for a long, long time, Bill and everybody. But they would look, they had Davida Cody, and between Davida and I, we had a lot of capers that they just have to have faith to go along with us on some of these things. And it was really put in perspective when our late finance director, Wendy Jones, was alive. I had just bought a beautiful old Victorian in Chinatown, Oakland, for the women's perinatal site. And then the diocese calls me up and says, we got this convent out in East Oakland. I'm going like, Oakland's my town. We are going in the hood where we're needed. So we're in West Oakland, we're in East Oakland, we're soon to open in Richmond. We go in to put up that hope of recovery in the neighborhood where it's needed the most. But anyhow, we were doing pretty good financially since the Affordable Care Act, and money just laying around, just doesn't do much. So we had the opportunity to buy this place, and it was a train wreck like most of our houses, but we have the magician, Mr. Perez, over there, and I know who to call, and he makes it happen. And Wendy just got in there. We'd have a powwow most days, and she just looked at me, very sincerely and said, Tom, we just bought two big places, and do you have a plan? And I just had a smile at her and said, not really, So, and the board would go along like, oh my God, we can't do this, and this, being fiscally prudent and all that just doesn't rhyme with Tom or Davida. So here we are, and I really didn't know what we would do with this building, but I knew driving by encampments, having been a homeless person for over a decade myself, I knew there was plenty of people to fill this up. And only with the niche that this would be an abstinence-based place for them if that's what they want. We have to carry the torch there, as Mayor Bates pointed out, you know, that there's that niche there. That's the only way. People that have spent decades in prison, they don't need another drink. Women who have lost their children and got them back to Child Protective Services, they don't need another joint, period. And so abstinence-based is the only way for some of us. And for me, it's just been a long, incredible journey since September 8th, 1998, when the judge referred me over to this, who I endeared myself calling her a quack with a ponytail, Davida, and sentenced me to her program, which I did unwillingly. They tossed me back in jail 3 times till I got it. But the fact that they kept taking me back and believed in me when I couldn't believe in myself made it happen. Without that, I would have died on the street. So it was 17 years ago I went into San Quentin for the first time. And at the behest of KDAC, the certification board I was on at that time, I was on, and the president of KDAC called me up and said, well, these 2 guys in San Quentin, they wrote a letter to us and they want us to come in and help them to help other inmates. There was no treatment at San Quentin for 5,000 men at that time. And these guys said, well, we got sober, you know, many years ago through Narcotics Anonymous or Alcoholics Anonymous. We want to do our 12-step. We want to give back. And so I went in the next week with Warren Daniels, the president of KDAC, and we met with 25 guys. And I had the usual biases about prisons, right? Even though I had 47 stays in the county jail, they tell me, prison was a little scarier. And so I went in there and I was transformed in a matter of hours. I met 25 men dressed in blue that were thrilled that we showed up, oozing gratitude and eager to learn anything we could do. And that's where the ARC program was born, which evolved into the OMCP program. But Options has always never been afraid to create a model where there isn't one. And we work in, I don't know, Justin, 3-4 psych wards now, where it was severely, you know, he referred to that crew that the county didn't know what to do with, so they called us up, put us together with people with moderate and severe mental illness with huge addiction problems. And we created a model. And most of the time with Options, we didn't do it with any money. That was Davida Cody all the way. You know, when I first came to work there, I wasn't even working yet, and I was making $10 an hour or something, 10 hours a week or something that somebody was paying. And Davida came at me with this stuff she learned from Mother Teresa. And I go, like, really? What was that? Well, you feel the need first, and then the money will show up later. I said, oh, boy, where did we find this one? So I went to Father Bill O'Donnell, who was on the original board member, and I said, geez, do I have to sign up for the vow of poverty to work here? And he says, no, and he went into the board meeting and got me a raise. So he was such a militant. It was just wonderful. But we've come a long way since then, and I just want to thank the board and Justin for giving me an out here. I took a year and a half with him and Diana Weston. Stand up, Diana, who's really taken over the prison part of the program. It's too much to do both. I knew that. I was torn trying to run Options and do that as well. So it's statewide now. You left that out. We're statewide. We're down in Los Angeles County and lovely Tehachapi and Corcoran and over at the men's colony. And it's just giving those people. I'm such a grateful individual that the drug court was there for me. I'm going to shout out Judge Jeff Tauber there, my good friend, who was a big champion of the drug courts way back, who said something to me that was profound. We were having dinner, and he says, you know, rehabilitation should start at sentencing. I said, oh, shoot, what a thing to say. And it's so true that we don't give up on people. We run around as a society. We act like we don't, but we do. and for us to get in there just with our niche of substance use disorder, which homelessness is a symptom, which incarceration is a symptom, which the overcrowded mental health hospitals is just a symptom of untreated substance use disorder primarily. And when we get to that root problem, the rest come around. And so I'm just thrilled that you guys are doing this for me. Who would have thunk? You know, and I know that all the nuns that raised me are chuckling right now, you know. The ones that used to leave me down to detention, you know, when all the other kids went home, and you know, it's just all happening in one lifetime, which is hard to wrap my head around. I want to shout out a couple of people here, and they're both named Barbara. Get up. That redhead there is my grandniece. I don't have, you know, I'm so thankful that you showed up, Barbara. Thank you. And my sweetheart, Barbara Goddard here, who is my support, along with North Ray, my support. That's who you are. So thank you all. I know I'm between not only dinner, but the Golden State Warriors. So I better shut up and say thanks again.
So with that, we're wrapping up in just a few minutes, I promise. I want to just announce a couple things. So the Thomas P. Gorham Center will be designated as a reassimilation and reentry housing and supportive services for people who need clean and sober housing coming out of long-term incarceration, and ultimately will serve as a bridge for the many of OMCP graduates that are continue to grow month by month, who are being released from incarceration. So there's a couple of folks that I want to mention here today that are here in attendance that will play a very big role in this. One of whom is Kathy Narasaki, who is going to be the director for the program. So Kathy, come out and say hi. So Kathy's also, for those of you that want to stick around and see the site and just see kind of the layout and why I called it the Ritz-Carlton of transitional substance use disorder, clean and sober housing, is because it is. And you're going to be able to see that if you want. But I also want to recognize another person who's in the audience today who will serve as the program supervisor for the site and for all of the great work that we're going to be doing in here, and that's Mr. George Smith. So George, go ahead and raise your hand, say hello. We're very honored to have George be willing to contribute and work as the supervisor here. So with that, I want to conclude the ceremony today, and I believe there's a proclamation. Come on.
Hello, everyone. I'm Pamela Farren. I'm Councilmember Taylor's Chief of Staff and also resident of District 6. So folks here will be my neighbors, and really glad that there's a space for folks to come to in the neighborhood. So I can read the commendation from City Council and Councilmember Taylor. Whereas Options Recovery Services was founded in 1996 by a visionary group led by David Coldley. Okay, thank you. Apologies. And began as a diversion treatment program for the Berkeley court as a weekly small group meeting for drug-involved offenders who agreed to accept treatment. And whereas finding success and increase in demand, Options Recovery Services expanded its collaboration with courts, district attorneys, police, jails, prisons, probation departments to promote an alternative approach to address the root causes of crime, homelessness, and broken families. And whereas with limited financial resources, Options Recovery Services developed into a model program serving more than 1,600 clients annually and has been a catalyst for changing the way we deal with drug offenders in our state by developing collaborative relationships with area providers, social services, and institutions to promote state-of-the-art treatment and recovery in a person-centered, holistic model of care. And whereas Options Recovery Services has served 1,000 clients through every intervention and treatment program, placed over 200 clients in emergency shelter, and provided employment development to qualifying clients. And whereas in 2019, Options Recovery Services purchased the former Casa Vincentia Convent at 3210 62nd Avenue here in Oakland in District 6, and undertook extensive retrofitting and remodeling, but due to the COVID pandemic in early 2020, the facility's individualized bedrooms, bathrooms, and eating areas were pressed into service for Options that have been exposed to COVID, Option clients that had been exposed to COVID, and the facility became a safe haven to clients under the quarantine. And whereas, as the pandemic subsided, that use was no longer required, and Options Recovery Services entered into a contract with the California Department of Corrections and Rehabilitation to provide entry services for up to 25 former inmates at the facility. And whereas, in the spring of 2022, the restored building and Covenant will be dedicated as the Thomas P. Gorham Center in honor of Thomas Gorham, retired executive director and founder of Options in Prison Programs. Thank you so much.
Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight, for taking the time to celebrate with us, and to really recognize this center for what it can be and what it will be. In your name, congratulations. With that, we conclude.